Well, we'll try to crunch 40 minutes into 30 minutes by talking fast, having an engaged conversation as much as possible, and I invite the panel to jump in, discuss, converse, debate. First of all, my panel is Henrique de Castro. He's Managing Director for European Sales for Google, and that includes YouTube, Europe. Mike Volpi, who you heard earlier discussing, here comes our missing panelist, just in time. Mike Volpi, who you heard earlier, CEO of Joost, which was founded by the partners who created Skype. Dina Kaplan, Chief Operating Officer of Blip TV, New York-based. Nancy Cruickshank. Nancy is CEO of VideoJug, London-based. And Dan Scheinman, General Manager of Cisco Media Solutions. Interesting group. There's a lot to talk about in video. A few weeks ago, I issued our annual economic forecast for media and marketing, and for the first time in recent history, advertising spend, total advertising spend, will be down in 2009 for 2 years in a row. But within that, online video advertising was the single most robust part of the advertising mix, adding social networking, advertising, and others with 70% growth. So let me first ask the panel in the US and in Europe, am I being too aggressive for the growth of advertising? Do those forecasts put too much pressure on you, or are they realistic? So Dina, can you start?
I think that is definitely growing more robust. It certainly has in 2008, but we are nowhere where we're going to be in 2009, and then certainly in 2010, which I think will be the key turning point year. I mean, look, let's be honest. Brands and agencies have not set aside budgets for web video ad spending. And we'd be lying if we told you otherwise. But it has to happen. And it's going to happen for two reasons. One, clearly, audiences are moving online. The second thing is, I think we have a huge opportunity right now with the economic downturn to tell advertisers that rather than just spreading a message out on television and hoping for the best, you can exactly target the exact audience that you want to reach through online in a way that's absolutely not possible through television.
So we'll get into metrics. What are you finding at Joost in terms of revenue generation for 2009?
Well, you know, we launched our site a month ago, so frankly, it's a little bit early for us to exactly say. But you know, generally speaking, I would say that for professional online video, the market seems to be still reasonably healthy, and I think it's principally because it's a new medium that so far statistically shows good click-through rates, good retention from audiences, and so forth. And so, what a little inventory there is out there is being filled relatively aggressively by the agencies and the media buyers and so forth. Now, as the inventory increases, we'll see what it looks like, because obviously over next year, audiences are going to spend more time watching online video. There'll be more ad inventory, and we'll see what the pricing trends are. But as far as we can see, which is no more than a quarter or so ahead of us, it looks reasonably healthy.
Henrique, YouTube has been challenged by the viral aspect of the content and question about advertiser interest. What's your sense of how advertisers are coming around, and what is YouTube doing to address the advertiser needs for confidence in content?
Let me step back 2 seconds. First is where video sits. Is video part of the online world, is mystic, or is video part of TV, or is video somewhere in the middle? And the consumer doesn't really care. The reality is that video can deliver a message that's as rich as TV on a much more target way. So this is going to be the major thing. And you see that all across. You see that on the media agencies. Who owns that budget? Is it a TV budget? Is it an online budget? Where is that? On the clients, a lot of clients on the digital space tend to go are transactional clients, the typical display transactional. So we're going to see new branding guys coming on board. So this is the first thing we see. The second thing is, where is this content on the video, what is going to be the advertising model around those? That's the second thing. And then it's going to be, I think, is going to be a trade-off between invasiveness and alienation of consumer. So, and that's going to, we have to work out, and I think the ABC models is what we're going to do. Is if I put you too much advertising, you zap today on your TV. So if you don't put anything, you probably don't make any money. So we have to make that trade-off, and we're going to try, the more target and the better the advertising is integrated in the content, the less evasive it's going to be. And that's going to be all the trade-off.
Well, we've got a few different models here in terms of the types of video where YouTube is more viral user-generated video, although you've just added MGM movies and you're moving and you have the network video, but let's hold with the viral for a moment as one type. You've got the Joost model where you're dedicated to, as you explained earlier, to mostly network produced content. Dina, you have a number of syndicated, episodic type of series that are being created and that you're distributing on behalf of content producers. And if I'm correct, Nancy, you're producing thousands of videos in a short form, how-to, and other types of content. And Dan, you're providing infrastructure for much of that. But let's come to the three different contexts and talk to those. And where are you seeing the greatest amount of advertiser interest and growth and opportunity? And what are the business models, if we can, for each of you? And Nancy, if you can share your business models.
So I'll definitely talk to that. I mean, we have a ton of different types of content on our site. VideoJug is an instructional, factual video website. So we, over the last 2 years, we made 50,000 videos ourselves with producers between our offices in Los Angeles and London. So we've invested, millions and millions of dollars in creating the library. And we felt that was really important to create a critical mass library around some of the kind of mainstream popular areas of interest for our audiences: fashion, beauty, relationships, food and drink, tech, health, and on it goes. That doesn't represent critical mass across, a much broader spectrum. You'd need many, many, many more videos. But with that core quality library, it does allow you to attract advertisers into what they deem a safe environment, but also a very targeted environment on the basis that it's very intent-based. So I lean forward, I might start my journey with Google. I come in and say, I want to know how to change a car tire. I want to know how to create a smoky eye effect or whatever it is. And if you can map the right advertisers to that, I think it can be a very compelling mix. I think what we mustn't forget about, though, is getting the right format for the right advertising. So I think one of the issues for online is there's the great opportunity of targeting and offering a lot of data to advertisers, but it's been a rod for our own backs as well, in that when I first launched Vogue online in the UK in '94, we went out with a big message about, this is all trackable and accountable. And it became a very direct response medium, which was utterly inappropriate for the brand that we were actually putting online. This is all about branding and environment and association. So I think getting kind of a layered revenue approach in place for video is possible, and it's appropriate. With my content that's factual, we do curate user-generated content. We do bring in sort of partners onto the site, as well as our own productions. But it's thinking about, is this the right type of content that would have pre-roll, an in-stream piece? Is it something that would, promote some kind of lead generation? Would you have affiliate stuff in here? Is there text? So I think it's thinking about it in a much fuller spectrum in the marketing mix.
Dina, can you respond to that and share your business models?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll agree that part of what we all need to do is to explain that web video advertising does have kind of the best of both worlds. You have the storytelling aspects of television, and then you have a wonderful video ad that can be very compelling. And then you also can have the online metrics of traditional display ads. So rather than many marketers thinking, oh my gosh, we don't know what to do with this new medium, I in fact think that you can have an incredibly successful branding campaign through web video, and you can also have an incredibly successful direct response message, as long as the creative is done in the right way, encouraging people to click or take that that next action. In terms of us, we divide the content into 3 potential products, essentially, for advertisers. You can do a very deep brand integration into a top show. I'll give you an example. And this is something that would be much harder to do on television or would take much longer to execute. So Puma came to us a few months ago and said, we really want to promote our new golf line geared 100% at women. So we happen to have a show called Golf Girl TV, go figure. So Golf Girl TV, sure enough, wore her Puma shoes and a cute Argyle Puma sweater vest and went out on the golf link and shot 4 episodes of her show, and they were incredibly successful. We were able to get placements for them on all sorts of golf sites around the web because we syndicate videos out. And then actually to the point of metrics, we integrated a third-party stats and analytics partner onto Blip. It's called Illuminix. They do a great job of providing a graph, kind of like the one you would see when you're watching the debate of people, turning the dial up or down when they say something they like. It actually will show where people rewound the video, where they fast-forwarded it, where they paused it to see more, and people actually did pause the video, rewind, and rewatch the shots of the shoe when the camera zoomed in on it. So Puma was thrilled. I mean, what a great campaign. The 2 other ways that we can do a campaign is if you just want broad reach. So we have 38,000 active shows on Blip that are uploading an average of 3 new episodes every single month with 62 million video views a month. So if you just want reach, if you're Panasonic, if you're Cisco, someone like that, you can do reach just by pre-roll, mid-roll, post-rolls, or you can target it by vertical. You can say, I want to target the sports vertical, the entertainment vertical, the tech and gaming vertical, et cetera.
And Mike, Albert Chang at Disney has said TV network sites are the go-to places for long-form network TV content, arguing that ABC.com, Hulu, CBS, which is syndicating its content, would probably argue that point. But you talked a lot about social networking around the video. What's your sense of from the revenue generation model, what your real potential is and obstacles are?
Well, a couple of things. Undoubtedly, a lot of users are going to go to the native site. Say if your ABC show, let's say it's Lost, you're going to go to see it on ABC. The majority of them are probably going to see it on ABC. In ABC's case, they don't syndicate, and therefore it's only on their site, and that causes the traffic to naturally go to their website. I don't think that all viewing is going to happen on those sites, and frankly, you have a lot of viewers who like aggregation. I mean, let's face it, we all buy cable television, we all buy satellite, and we all go to YouTube, and the primary reason is you go to one place to watch a lot of content. In fact, Hulu itself, while being a NBC Fox joint site, is also very much in the aggregation business. So that's their core offering, and they have exclusivity on that content, but they realize clearly that you need aggregation. So there's a place for aggregation. Now, the nice thing about relatively premium and professional content is that advertisers are familiar with that type of content, and so they are willing to put a larger amount of higher CPM dollars behind it. And undoubtedly, relative to sort of an untargeted, sort of user-generated environment, we enjoy from sort of higher sell-through rate, or almost completely sold out, and a higher CPM environment. That said, I think that you have to be careful with sort of this distinction that people often draw between brand and sort of click-to-action or click-through. Because the reality of where we see our service going, and I assume that's where other people in this business are seeing the same thing as well, which is it's actually a blend of the two. Meaning that you create an impression of the brand from the pre-roll, the mid-roll, or whatever that you're showing, which is visual and rich and contextual and so forth. And then there is some kind of a call to action, which oftentimes may be more information. You show a Mercedes-Benz commercial, and then you click to go to the website and learn more about that particular model, about Mercedes-Benz, right? So what you find is that the integration of the two, meaning the brand ad plus the call to action, creates substantially higher click-through rates, and therefore creates a better advertising environment, meaning that the internet is not just about click to action, but it really can take the best of brand and then combine it with what the internet is good at, which is furthering the user, their curiosity, what they want to know, and so on and so forth. And that's where the market is going. And that's why we think, and I'm guessing both of them will agree with my point of view, that this is a very wonderful medium for advertising.
Dan?
Yeah, I want to step back for a second, because I agree with Mike. And one of the things I think, though, at a higher level is that the challenge for a media company today is they are having trouble. In many ways, it's like they're building the printing press and they're telling the story. And the challenge for them is in figuring out how to aggregate audience, how to tell that story, and how to have their content find you. And what we're doing is beginning to build platform, which we're going to be launching in the next several months, around how to create a platform for media companies to make this relatively simple so that they can begin to create experiences in a customized look and feel that they create, where the data shares across the various properties they have. And ultimately, that those data sets can transcend web and go into TV or wherever, mobile, to create great experiences for the users, right? And if we can do all these things, we create places where users ultimately can derive value. Today, in many ways, what we're doing is we're in a very experimental phase where we're spending a lot of time trying to figure out what to do, what do users like, do they like pink shoes? I think, Dina, when you said that, we all looked at our shoes to see, are any of our shoes, Puma worthy? And I think at the end of the day, what we believe is that the combination of content, customers, and ultimately great experience will be able to create platform for media companies so that they can be able to take their content and become relevant again in the space on their own terms.
And you talk about platforms. You were responsible at Cisco, I believe, for the acquisition of Scientific Atlanta, which is in the cable and satellite set-top box manufacture business. Do you see the convergence in the next few years of the types of videos that are being created for online here moving over to the television platform?
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the things we have with Scientific Atlanta is we have approximately 48% of the set-top boxes in the United States and a significant portion of the set-top boxes in Europe. And what we have with that is an understanding of what consumers are consuming second by second. And imagine that you can marry that with the data that exists, in the web. We become the one place where you begin to have a data set where you can begin to predict and understand consumer behavior and to predict serendipity. So absolutely, we think these things come together.
I think there are some real issues about syndication for content owners and how you manage that experience for your customers, making yourself very widely available, but also for brands. So I think in Dina's example, when you've got a product placement piece that you're doing with the brand, we create tons of brand TV, or you've got a sponsorship, it's relatively easy to make that content portable, to take it out and give it to your partner at MSN, your YouTube channel, whatever it is. But when you're simply trying to take the content and make it available in a ton of different environments, then you do run into all the issues about different ad servers, different tracking systems, different players, and all of those things. And actually, what a scale advertiser wants is access to a scale audience in a targeted fashion. And so I think there are some genuine issues that we still need to deal with in that area. All upside for the future, but it is a hurdle for now.
Absolutely.
Well, there is complexity, but I mean, leaving aside our business, if you look at the three major media companies in the U.S., Fox, NBC, ABC, and CBS, CBS by far has the biggest reach, like double or triple the other folks. And the reason they have that reach is because they've adopted a broad syndication model. And they don't have a nice branded service like Hulu, but people watch a lot more CBS. And most of the people in the advertising business know, CBS has the oldest average audience of the major networks in the United States. Yet they have the highest internet viewership, which is not characteristic, because you would think that the younger audiences would migrate to the internet stuff. CBS does so well because of the syndication model. Admittedly, it's complex because you have to have tracking mechanisms and ad engines and so on and so forth.
And
but
NBC
if you do
and
it right,
Fox have an asset value of over $100 million that they've built with Hulu that CBS doesn't have in terms of stock market value.
I think the asset value of Hulu is frankly somewhat debatable because it's dependent on exclusive access to a certain amount of content, and the profitability of it is questionable. So you have to wonder about the exact asset value. What CBS gets is ad dollars and reach to audiences, which ultimately I think advertisers care more about as opposed to the market cap of a Hulu.
I think there's a point here that what is the positioning of the different media companies take? Someone have the content and they don't care where the content is going to run. They provide the content, and whoever monetize that content for them, they are happy on their own websites or on third-party websites. There's the other thing like we do, which is we want to be a destination. We are more like the broadcaster. The consumer comes to us not for a specific content, but the consumer comes to us because he wants entertainment. And when he's with us, he's going to scroll, look around, and see different content. So that's a different proposition. We want to be the entrance to the video world like YouTube or Google is to the search or web. And if that's the case, people will come to us and we want to be an aggregation, right? Some other people are just video on demand. So they say, I want to go there to see a specific video or a specific catalog, which is the dedicated ones. And I think these two places is going to be different in proposition. And that's going to be very different on also how you monetize. Do you monetize your traffic overall or you monetize your specific content?
Well, Henrique, in so many ways, video providers, video developers are very dependent on YouTube for distribution. Yesterday, Ben Silverman pointed out that NBC was moving from a distribution model to a content developer, to a content company. Bob Iger has said the same thing about ABC, that they're moving from a distribution company to a content company. Do you see YouTube making that, becoming more of a content company and a curator of content to provide more context to advertisers?
Well, I don't think so. I think actually, I used to say that the genius is out. That you produce your content and you control the distribution was a very monolithical approach, very integrated value chain with a very control. A few years ago, or you would even take the tape with you, right? That model is different because the audience is across different media and you want to monetize wherever the audience is. So we are a delivery mechanism. We're not going to be a content. People do content better than us, either on the UGC side or on the professional content side. So we are not going to do that production. We're going to be the best interface for consumers. And if the consumers come to us seeing that we are the best interface for them, then probably the content producers will want to be there. So I think that's the way you're going to do.
There are a lot of areas we can go to here. We could go more into user-generated content. We could go into the need for standards around video advertising. We could go into metrics and how do we develop standards around metrics. Let me ask the panel, what's on your mind? What would you like to talk about?
One thing, I'm not sure but one thing that I think is very relevant is that some audience is not on the TV anymore. Yeah. People that and we saw yesterday the guy from Hassel saying that his daughter does not interface with the world the way he does. There's a lot of audiences that are not on TV anymore, and that's going to grow more and more. So if you want better frequency, more targeting, and new audiences it reaches, the video online is going to be a major delivery.
I think it won't matter so much where people are watching the content. So lots of people are going to continue to watch television, but an increasing amount will be watching videos on the web. And certainly in the US, we'll start to catch up a little bit to Europe and Asia, and more people will be watching videos on their mobile phone. I think soon, within the next few years, we'll just have an interface that will control our content and what we like to watch, and it'll just send content to the TV set when we want to watch it there, and to the other screens when we want to watch it there. I think that it's very smart for the major networks to think about themselves as great content creators, and for the distribution platforms to know what we are. YouTube is a wonderful distribution platform for a certain type of content. Other content creators will want to just take their content and distribute it out to wherever people are watching. What I think we will see, a big trend, even in 2009, this will begin, is distributors will increasingly compete with each other for the best talent and the best show. And I think we'll see a lot of power move to the talent as all of these different distribution outlets essentially fight amongst themselves to carry and distribute the best shows.
Okay. Nancy?
I think the collaboration piece is really, really important here, because the view of having your content everywhere and consumers being able to consume where they want to, that has to be the ultimate goal, and it's a really exciting vision. But the reality is, at the moment, that isn't possible. And so even businesses like on YouTube, I have a YouTube channel for VideoJug, but out of 50,000 pieces of content that I created, we only put 200 pieces on our channel. It generates a ton of video streams every month, but because you guys haven't focused on monetizing it yet, and I'm not able to yet monetize it myself, then there's not enough collaboration there. And I'm excited to hear about, you know, where we're moving, I guess, in terms of the CBS deal this quarter, and certainly talking with some of your team about what we might be able to do in Q1 next year once DoubleClick is integrated. I think that's just one example of collaboration where companies have got to come together to figure out how do you really create value for consumers, but also for, you know, the companies creating content, because it is very expensive still, even with the cost of production going right down through the floor.
Dan?
I think we're going to see the revival of the media brands. And I think not by brand, I don't mean ABC, CBS, NBC, but the actual show and content brands. I think the content brands are the most undervalued thing. And if I had any money left, I would actually be betting on the media brands. I think media brands have an incredible amount of power, and in general what's happened is that we as an industry have either ripped off or devalued those brands. And I think what we're going to see in the next year or two is that media companies are going to fight back, and that those brands are going to try and take and extract the value that they have in those brands, and that some of them are going to be very successful because they're at the point where they're applying a lot of smart people and being able to figure out how to go do these things and apply the resource they have. So I bet a lot on brand, that brand is going to actually power a lot as we go forward.
Well, and magazines also are developing video and moving aggressively into developing their brands in a online video context as well.
Absolutely, and I love the faith-based initiative, right? As they move beyond faith-based initiatives, right, which they have to do, they need data about their users. They have to understand their users, and they have to create this world where content can find you. That's going to be the paradigm, and all of that requires platform to power it.
Mike, Nancy,
Sorry,
you want to add one quick comment?
One quick comment on the brand piece, and, you know, the example of magazines moving online, creating video content. I think one of the things that brands have to really watch out for is there's a compromise probably in quality that you have to make online. You have to think about this enormous appetite that consumers have for content online and the frequency that they might want that. And ultimately, there is perhaps a compromise that has to be made on quality. You can't spend $60,000 per hour on creating, you know, a short segment for online right now. And I think for some of the brands, they'll figure it out. The production companies will figure it out. But that, you know, to get an ROI on this kind of stuff, we have to find a format that's relevant for online. So that's my only thought
TV
about
networks would love to spend $60,000 per hour on content. Mike, final comment?
No, I would say, you know, the earlier point that we talked about on branded syndication is a very interesting one, because I think the strategy being pursued by VideoJug is exactly the right one. And the analogy I draw to people is just like retail, right? If you have a well-known brand in retail, Giorgio Armani, you're going to have a company-owned store, and you're going to expect a lot of your customers to come through that company-owned store. That's your best branding environment for sure. However, not everybody is going to come to your store. So does that mean you put every line of clothing you have into every department store and everywhere in the world? No. You're selective about it. You look at, well, maybe at Macy's, I put this kind of clothing. At Barney's, I put this kind of stuff. In Neiman Marcus, I put this kind of stuff, and so forth. And so you design a syndication strategy that is based on the demographics and the characteristics of that particular outlet, and you intelligently syndicate your content to best reach your audience. The media owners who do that best will be the most successful in the business, and I think the smart ones have already figured it out and are already doing it.
Henrique, final comment.
My final comment is the world is going to change in the next 2 to 3 years. Content is going to be widely distributed. We didn't talk about mobile. We didn't talk about, it's going to be different. That's going to be, James Murdoch yesterday talked about the difficulty to find the newsstand to buy your newspaper. A lot of people are going to take it away. So it's going to be increase. We see increasing the traffic. We're going to see increasing the time of exposure because of the capability to take it with you. So we're going to see a huge appetite for consumers. And I think everything we said about creating flagship content that's relevant for the distribution, and distribution being capable to bring all the consumers and users to their destination, and advertiser dollars falling through will going to come together. And that's definitely true, and that's definitely is going to be on the back of television dollars more than on the display dollars.
Well, unfortunately, because of the time constraints, we're limited in our conversation, and we're limited in our opportunity to come to you to the audience for questions. The title of this panel has been "The Revolution Will Be Streamed," and clearly the next 3 years we have in front of us not only a very challenging economy, but an opportunity for a true revolution in the media industry and the advertising industry, and that will be led by video. And thank you for the leadership that you've shown, and for the future leadership that your companies and you will be showing. Henrique de Castro, Mike Volpi, Dina Kaplan, Nancy Cruickshank, Dan Scheinman, thank you very much.
And Jack Myers.